So next up, I'll be talking about our steering committee that really ties the work of the partnership all together. So as I said, we'll get into talking about each four of our partners later on in the presentation. But before we get started on that, we really want to talk about what holds us together. And what holds the four coalitions together is our steering committee. So I found a great quote from Ronald Stern. In the liquid society, you lead horizontally with human synergy. And I felt like that was something that really resonates with our coalition, just because we really want to be human-centered and we're very focused on place-based solutions. So just a huge highlight for us from 2019 and 2020, we spent over 117 hours in strategizing and planning meetings. So a lot of time spent having conversations and getting really deep into issues and making sure that we're embedding equity into everything that we do, or at least trying. So our steering committee formed in 2015. We have a horizontal leadership model. So what that translates into is having two coalition members, or two representatives from each coalition sit on our steering committee, and they essentially meet monthly to set priorities, to evaluate the work that we're doing, to discuss issues in our current society and things that are happening right now, and in addition to also work on some of our goals. So our steering committee is also an active steering committee, meaning partners take on roles and tasks to complete, to further our deliverables and milestones. And so we're very active in the work that we do. Our table also serves as a place to share learnings, to talk about event planning, systems and policy reform, and cause advocacy or championing a specific issue. Like I said, the two representatives that sit on the steering committee represent the two representatives per coalition that sit on the steering committee represent their coalition. And whenever we have motions or anything that we need to vote on, we use a consensus model. And specifically, we've employed a fist to five technique. And so some of you may have heard of this or may do this yourselves as well. But a fist just meaning that the motion is blocked and there's no way that we can continue moving forward. And then 5 is agreement, let's do it. And 3 is kind of in that middle. I might not love it, I don't like it, but I can support it. And so that's how we make our decisions. Next off, I want to talk about some of our goals. And our goals are a little bit separate from our work, just because we see our steering committee as really taking on the work, the invisible work, essentially, the work that is mainly about discussion and figuring out how can we make our communities better? How can we provide better services? How can we make sure that people have access? So over the course of the 4 years, the steering committee has drafted a few goals in which they see as imperative for having a striving South Seattle community. So our first goal is to support partner organizations, or support partner coalitions and organizations. And so that's something that we're doing already by just sitting at this table and doing the work that we do. But in addition, we also do sponsor other organizations, smaller community-based organizations, to do work and to partner with us to get things accomplished. The second goal, to develop methods to support community work. I think this may be one of our major areas in which we want to continue delving into. While there are many community organizations, many of them are in the Rainier Valley, many of them operate through fiscal sponsors, or they have models that are not sustainable. And so this is something that we've particularly identified that can create harm, or not create harm, but that can be harmful to the small community-based organizations, because they provide services, special tailored services for vulnerable communities and for small subsets of the community that may be missed, but they don't have a sustainable model unless they become a 501c3. So this is something that we're definitely very big on trying to figure out, how do we get community-based organizations to continue their work without having to have a 501c3 status if they don't want it. The next one, working to narrow the equity gap for BIPOC communities in South Seattle. I think as COO sponsored groups, we're all doing this work. And so we're continuing to work with organizations that understand or have a working understanding of equity. And we want to continue to also engage with partners who are interested in narrowing the opportunity gaps for BIPOC communities. So they're not already invested in this work, trying to pull them in and tell them why this is so important. And our fourth, I'll dive a little deeper into our fourth goal, collectively strategizing resources and funding. I will talk about that in our next slides. So our steering committee projects, over 2019 and 2020, we've had two main projects. And the first one would be to create an equity framework to determine our funding for 2021. And the second one is the We Are the Rainier Valley video. So we had a busy 2020, excuse me, and 2019, I guess. So the video, I'll start in with the video. The video was really to introduce gentrification, displacement and its effect on Southeast Seattle and the Rainier Valley in particular. The equity framework is actually the model for fundraising that I want to talk a little bit more about. So the equity framework that we created, or excuse me, the equity framework was created as an effort to create a more transparent and fair negotiation process. Collectively, our partners have all contributed to all of our projects, and the creation of the framework was no different. And it truly was the highlight for our 2020 year. Previously, the 4 coalition partners would convene for 1 to 3 days for full 8 hours to advocate for the projects and negotiate for more funding. This process was really tough. It was difficult on partners, and it was draining. It required for partners to come together to view funding in itself through a lens of their organization instead of through their partner organization or through their coalition. And so with that understanding, an organization will advocate for their own needs, right? So we kind of went back to that phase of folks were kind of battling for funds, essentially, or work, yeah. So we wanted to create a process where we didn't have to do this, and it wasn't just discussing funding and saying, I need more funds, or this is why my project is more important. Because all of our projects in this Rainier Valley are important and they serve a purpose. And so it was really important to make sure that in an effort to illuminate all of the work that's being done, that there's a fair process or an equitable process to assist in negotiation of funds. So what we did is we created a framework and we added additional criteria, and we requested that each partner coalition per project describe what it is that they're looking for. And we had specific questions for them. Oops. Oh, it got a little away from me. Give me 1 sec. Okay. Still getting away from me, sorry. Internet is jumping around. Okay. Sorry, give me 1 moment. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. So the criteria that we added to this equity framework in order to make it more holistic is the 5 key areas that you're seeing on your screen right now. And so basically these 5 items were added, like I said, to create more of a holistic picture for each partner to understand what activity or what projects are being done, as well as why the funding is crucial at this time through an equity lens. So for our first point, project effectiveness, we created a question that focused on, or we created a set of questions that really focused on, are we building power? And is this project effective, and will it help BIPOC communities? So does this project increase well-being for BIPOC communities? And you've got a 1 through 5 scale. And after that, there was a short answer portion in which you would also describe why you think it would increase, and then present that to the partners. For power and decision-making, there were questions around, does this project equitably engage their partner organizations in decision-making? Because like I said, once again, we are a coalition and not just an individual organization. So we want to make sure that our coalitions are functioning in a healthy manner. Organizational capacity. Has a sponsoring organization and the project had or continue to have access to multiple large sources of power? And the underlying assumption there is really the more access you have to power, that generates more access to money and more support for your project. So if there are partners who may not have as much power at the table, how do we balance that out? Or how do we discuss that? Equity challenges, well, I guess it kind of just says it in its name, but does investing in this at this time build critical BIPOC-led infrastructure in the Rainier Valley? So just being very intentional with our questions about equity and saying, does it help folks in this moment in time? And we did implement this tool in this past year. So lots and lots of learning occurred. I'm gonna go through some of the tools that we developed and just talk about them a little bit. Hope you get a little snapshot. So before embarking on this process and really talking about each project and going through an exhaustive list of questions to try and understand what is the best way to divvy up funding, we wanted to make sure that there was a reference sheet for people to understand what different types of power are, what they mean, and how it plays out. And so we worked with a wonderful consultant, Nicole Keenan, to help us to create this. And so you see here all of the different categories and privileged communities. And so if there was anyone that had questions or didn't understand how we were defining equity, they could look at this reference sheet and hopefully be more clear. So these are just some of our sample questions that each partner had to answer as a part of their proposal. So at this moment, is your project running at a surplus or a deficit or breaking even? As you can see, these are very, very difficult questions. And it depends on partners to, one, be honest and to provide the information. And so that, I think that this process was definitely, it hits home for us versus just coming together and sitting at a table, because we had to delve deep into each of our organizations, get these answers, as well as share them with each other and explain difficult concepts or difficult topics with partners. And so we're really just highlighting with these questions, organizational capacity, the impact of a budget increase or decrease, really trying to spur cross collaboration between organizations and trying to understand the communities impacted. And yeah. So next, some of the ways that we evaluated our proposals and what was not what was appropriate, but maybe what was more deserving of funding or what was more imperative. These were some of those questions, and it really helped us to focus on the project effectiveness, power and decision-making, and organizational capacity as well as budget considerations. So could this project be more equitable? What does that mean? All of our partners answered in different ways. And so it gave us time to go back to that reference sheet and really talk about, what does this mean? How are we defining equity again? All right. So now that you've heard from about our steering committee and how our equity framework basically played into our funding allocations for 2021, I want to re-zoom back in, like I was telling you, and we'll get back into our partner coalitions. And so that includes, wonderful slide again. All right, so we will have South Core, the South Community, oh, sorry. First, you'll hear from OBO actually, but I just want to reintroduce our coalitions one more time, because you'll be hearing from them and hearing in depth more about what they're doing and their projects. So I'm just going to reintroduce them, and then each one of them will come on and speak on behalf of their partnerships and on behalf of their coalitions and speak about what they've done in 2019 and 2020. And so we have South Communities Organizing for Racial and Regional Equity. We have Onboard Othello, which will be a combination of hosted, healthier Othello through safer environmental design, the Beatbox, and hosted, or home site, excuse me. And then we have RBAC, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, and Multicultural Community Coalition. So we'll start off with Onboard Othello, and we'll have Susan Davis kick us off.
Hello, thanks for being here today, and thanks for inviting me to come and speak. As you can see, our partners for Onboard Othello, or we like to call it OBO, is Homesite, Hosted, and Beatbox. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Hargu? Okay, thank you. So one of our partners is Hosted, which is, as Hargu said, Healthy Othello, Safer Through Environmental Design. And Hosted is a Othello community engagement and youth leadership program focused on improving safety in our public spaces to promote healthy activities and community connections for all people. We have convened a decision-making group of more than 100 people. There are 2 community members who are now going through the SEPTET certification program. And we've worked with grassroots organizations on the Your Voice, Your Choice initiative for street projects, which received over 700 ballots. And just a little bit more background about what Hosted was doing in 2019 and 20. So since 2016, we have followed the SEPTET concepts and methods to increase the safety for all the people in the Othello neighborhood safety hotspots with non-arrest solutions. We engage neighbors, agencies, property owners, and community partners to understand how we can make the recommended changes happen and the power that the community can have to improve their communities. So we held 5 workshops to teach the SEPTET method and to get community members to analyze the 4 hotspots that were identified. And we produced a document of the community and expert information to help drive the changes that were needed. We looked at making physical changes to Safeway, Othello Safeway, Seattle Parks, and Seattle Housing Authority property. By fixing lighting, removing visual and accessibility obstructions, introducing art, and adding other helpful paintings. I'm hoping that most of you have seen that beautiful mural that's on the side of Safeway on Othello. If you haven't, go over there, it's beautiful. Also looking at art for the crosswalks and brighter fire hydrants in the pedestrian right-of-way. Other changes were hosting healthy activities, providing information and opportunities to help with input and actions in these hotspots. We also wanted to change people's perspectives about those areas and the behaviors, how they would approach those areas to make them safer. And let's move to the next slide. Thank you. Beatbox is another one of our programs. Beatbox provides food security and independence through gardening awareness, urban gardening, and healthy eating with hands-on experiences. So again, this is reporting back from 2019 and 20. We held 8 gardening classes, 28 fitness classes, and posted 11 urban garden videos. We engaged over 300 people, and we distributed 500 container gardening kits and 200 microgreen kits to the community members. So the goal for Beatbox is to create a healthier community, and to do that, we provide education resources to the Othello neighborhood. And basically the values of the group is we believe that healthy food is a big part of a healthy community. So our classes aim to increase gardening awareness, engage urban gardening, and promote when it's COVID safe, there are many events that we've had focusing on community gatherings and building relationships with the neighbors, organizing workout classes, social gatherings, and neighborhood art projects. Lots of fun things to gather people together and get their hands in the dirt and and grow some good food. Most of the classes are from March through the fall, in and around Othello Park area. They also hire teachers from the community to be engaged, and not only to have the teachers local, but also to hire local people and to keep money in the community. One other slides not here, but I just want to add to the community and the business support that we have. Again, going back to 2019 and 20, we have one of our signature projects is the Plate of Nations, and I hope most of you have been to it. It's wonderful. It's been around for 10 years, and it basically highlights all the ethnic cuisine in and around the world that's located on the MLK corridor. And in 2020, because of COVID, there was a lot of, most of the restaurants had takeout service. So again, we were able to support that. And we also support community festivals and events in and around the Othello neighborhood. Othello International Festival, that's a project that I'm personally involved with. And because we couldn't because of COVID, we couldn't have the festival at the park, we came up with a new name and we called it Festival in a Box. So we had people drive through, we did it at New Holly, had people drive through, we actually gave them the box. In it was all the things for a festival. There were games, there was art supplies, there were food cards for Safeway. We even had soccer balls, and they had a clinic the next day with some of our Sounders soccer team. And it was so popular that we did it again in just before Thanksgiving, again to give people more food through that same drive-through. And we also support the MLK Business Association, and that is it for the history of On Board Othello. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Susan and Hargu. I'm Gregory Davis. I'm with the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, and we are also a Communities of Opportunity Rainier Valley partner. We are essentially a coalition of coalitions, and being a neighborhood-based group, we rely on the work of other people to help fulfill kind of the purposes that we have. For example, we're a member of the Rainier Beach Economic Development Roundtable, so that's economic development. We work with the Coalition Southeast Education Coalition to support our education interests, and we also work with the Coalition Rainier Beach, a beautiful, safe place for youth. You know, this is a great picture to have on our slide because naturally we can give a shout out to our council member, Zahili, Gurmai Zahili in District 2, and his great legislative aide, Chandler Gayden. But it also has a picture of our co-founder, David Savion, and myself, and then our venerable volunteer, Charity Jackson, and her mom, Danielle Jackson. And so what you see in this image is actually us activating a space at the Rainier Beach Safeway. And it's one of the efforts that Communities of Opportunity was able to support. So a little background on the Rainier Beach Action Coalition. You can see there our mission. We basically steward the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan. It was originally developed in 1997 or approved by the council in 1997 during the Norman Rice administration. And then we had an update occur of the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan in 2014. And the idea is to build a connected, sustainable, equitable community within the Rainier Beach neighborhood. The other thing that we strive to do through our mission is to promote the made in Rainier Beach quality education, living wage jobs, affordable transportation, and housing for all. Promoting safety is a really critical investment area that we have, and we want people to thrive, a neighborhood the world calls home, and build community neighborhood capacity to enhance the quality of life of Rainier Beach residents, as well as address critical issues threatening the welfare of Rainier Beach residents. Areas of activity that aren't necessarily supported through communities of opportunity is a lot of the advocacy work that we do in the neighborhood. We've been part of initiatives that were responsible for bringing the Priority Hire ordinance into reality, where now the city of Seattle on any of its capital projects are required to have 25% of the workforce from people from underinvested zip codes. The other is a successful campaign in getting Orca cards free for all high school students. So those were some economic development and transportation advocacy efforts that go along with the investments that were supported by Rainier Valley Communities of Opportunity. You can go to the next slide. So some of the specific work that we did through the investment of Rainier Valley Communities of Opportunity is a farm stand and also supporting our violence prevention work. You may recall seeing an image in the slide that had all of the partners in it, and there was a heart-shaped word cloud. And that is a result of a community-based participatory research that we did to really tap into the residents to find out what they were thinking about food insecurity, food justice in the neighborhood. And some of the words that were featured the most in that were foods, location, and healthy eating. So this really drove our interest in getting investments into our food justice work. And so one of the areas that Communities of Opportunity supported as a part of the Rainier Valley Coalition is a farm stand. And our interest was to increase access and consumption of locally grown fresh foods and increase employment. So through that, we were able to install 8 raised beds in Southeast Seattle, distribute 6,000 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables free of charge this past season, primarily due to COVID. And we were able to hire 4 young people who we call food justice fellows to help staff the farm stand. And so that's it was very exciting work. And if you happen to drive by the corner of Rainier and Henderson on Saturday morning, you'll see lines of people. And we were usually out of the produce after an hour of serving. So that really just talks about the great need that is out there. The other area of investment was a beautiful safe place for youth, where we were involved in reducing youth violence. Just this past summer, we were out at the Rainier Safeway parking lot. We had to choose that as a location because there were incidences that actually resulted in fatalities. And one of the efforts that we know we have to undertake is using these evidence-based practices to activate space. So we activated the Rainier Beach parking lot, and we called it a community healing space. We set our corner greeters up there. We partnered with the Southeast Network, Rainier Vista Boys and Girls Club and their Safe Passage program, and Moms Demand Action. And we activated that space 24 times through the year. And we also had an activity called Healing Circles, because we knew the harm that had occurred due to the incidences that occurred there. We needed to provide outlets for our residents. And so we brought in young people who were trained circle keepers to provide healing circles in that space. One of the other important elements to that work, and this relates to the connected community goal that Communities of Opportunity has, is we utilize a social media asset, and in this case it was Twitter, where we trained our young people to be citizen journalists. And that was important to us because we needed to change the narrative of our neighborhood. And one of the ways that you can do that is by taking images of people participating in positive activity. So as you can see by the slide, we had over 691 Twitter posts showing positive activities in the neighborhood. And all of these posts were generated by young people who were taking images of what's going on in the community healing space. And you can go to our website, www.rbcoalition.org, and look at the newswire, the Rainier Beach newswire, to see some of those images presently. We did have, this is one thing that we appreciated about our involvement with COO, is the importance of evaluation. So we did have, the question asked of us, how do we know if the community is better off? And so the criteria that we developed was the number of people of color consuming healthy produce on a more regular basis, and the number of youth consuming healthy produce on a more regular basis. And so that's what we were able to evaluate for the farm stand. For the Rainier Beach, a Beautiful Safe Place for Youth, it was the number of residents who feel more connected to their neighborhood due to involvement in community engagement activity, and the number of youth who say that they are more job ready due to their participation in community engagement activities. So this is how the investments for community opportunities were used by the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, and we're excited to be part of the coalition. And so I'm going to turn it over to Shiku from MCC, who will present what they're doing.
Thank you so much, Gregory. My name is Shiko Anena. I'm with the Multicultural Community Coalition, or MCC for short. My pronouns are she, her. I'm always in awe hearing the many incredible things that our coalition partners are doing. And it just always makes me feel even just more excited to continue the work that we are doing together. So Seattle came together really, not Seattle, MCC came together really understanding the Seattle's long history of racist housing and real estate practices and policies, including racially restrictive covenants and redlinings that have created grave inequities that have harmed and constrained Black communities through the Central District in Southeast Seattle, inequities which still impact residents of different education and economic backgrounds and employment opportunities, a diminished health outcomes, significant economic inequities, and other disparities through quality of life. MCC was formed from the inspired vision and determined activism of community leaders and local residents who, in the midst of growing waves of gentrification and displacement, believed that by mobilizing the collective resources, they could place a stake in ground for Black immigrant and refugee communities who have historically called the Rainier Valley home. So MCC came together really wanting to build power together to really combat displacement, which is at the heart of our strategy. Next slide, Adrian. So over the past decade, MCC has worked to achieve its mission by building power, combating displacement, and preserving culture through collective ownership, shared programming. We have leveraged COO multi-year funding in ways that have significantly increased our capacity and readiness through accomplishing the goal of creating cultural homes and vital services centers for immigrant refugees and communities of color throughout Southeast Seattle and King County. Together, we have refined our vision of opening an on-site cultural innovation center, which we have dubbed the CIC. Which we're hoping to house year-round cultural events, activities, and a dedicated space for cultural exhibit, storytelling, curated artwork, and that tells the history of our people, the stories of our lives in the Rainier Valley, and the vision and aspirations we hold for the future. We have also continued to work with on the vision of MCC's shared co-working space, which is another NCC project that we're hoping to anchor several cultural institutions serving approximately over 12,000 immigrant refugees and people of color through youth and family education, senior and social services, advocacy, case management, workforce development, and all workforce development, cultural competent and health well-being programs, and many, many more other programs. These are all vital services that help communities prosper in place. A huge part of MCC's work is to support our member organizations and their leadership. Through COO, we have been able to stipend our member organizations and strengthen their internal leadership through trainings, workshops, and even coming together to really to assess where can we strengthen the work that they have been doing, the collective work that they have been doing over the past decade of their service in the Rainier Valley. In addition, by sitting at the COO table, we have also been able to pass on opportunities to engage in public policies and systems of change and effort. With our work with COO and even just work with our coalition members, we have really wanted to launch our project of co-working space in the CIC, the Cultural Innovation Center, which is at the heart of our displacement strategy. While the actual aspect of our projects may have been paused due to some conflict, the vision of both prongs of our projects have been maintained. We have become deeply engaged in anti-displacement, anti-disaster gentrification, and the promotion of community-led stewardships and efforts through policy work, through our engagement in BASE, the Building Art and Space program, as well as CREST, and more importantly, with COO Systems and Policy system and policy grant work collaborations in which we work with RBAC and Southcore. We also do our advocacy work with the Race and Social Justice Equity Task Force and partnering with the Equity Development Now endeavors. MCC has also sought to advance its work as we continue to advance our work through the co-working space in the CIC, and as well as built upon the shared programming. We have began the year. We began the year in a strong position. We're going through the design process at the Othello Square space. Sorry, give me a minute. I need to take a breath. At the Othello Square space, this is the heart of our economic opportunity, anti-displacement, and community connectivity focus. We do not anticipate, however, that our partner and community developer would remove us from our project in 2020 without notice or cause, which has fully prevented us from moving forward with the goal of our capital campaign and ability to work on the design and construction planning process that we had helped to advance in the first half of 2019 and part of 2020. During the second half of the year, MCC began to scope a new property location that would advance our goal of building the co-working space and then also the Cultural Intervention Center, the CIC. We identified a property that houses 8 East African small business tenants that were at great risk of displacement, and we thought that it was a great opportunity to address our displacement strategy and as well as overlapping our disaster gentrification policy initiatives by affording us the ability to anchor these 8 small businesses in the Rainier Valley, as well as work towards building out a cultural innovation center and our co-working space. And this project will be in the Hillman City area. I'll pass it on to Abdi.
Thank you, Shiko. Hi, everyone. It's good to have you all. My name is Abdi Yusuf. I am a college organizer for South Core. South Core was developed in 2012, 9 years ago, after community leaders recognized the need in the region for community organizations to come together. Over the last 9 years, South Core had a mission of being organized voice for the community-controlled land and inspired development. South Korea is a multi-racial coalition of over 20 community based organizations that are rooted in Southeast Seattle and South King County. South Korea has developed a deepened their understanding of issues that affect our communities over the years. Issues such as climate justice, transit-oriented development, economic development, housing, labor, and many other issues that South Korea has been able to address over the years. South Korea has also provided capacity building and support to our grassroots allies through leadership trainings, leadership development. This includes another coalition that is based in Graham Street. Graham Street Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Program, which is under South Core, is a coalition that addresses the light rail that's coming to the neighborhood. The 20 organizations are based different areas in Southeast Seattle, Rainier Valley area, but there are 6 organizations who are based in Graham Street. And these Graham Street based organizations are the leaders for our Graham Street Trans-Oriental Development Program. The goal for South Core for 2021 will be and is to have strategic alignment, shared, leadership, and organizing strategy to advance the equitable development in King County. It's been 9 years, so the coalition is looking how we can align ourselves and hopefully develop a King County-wide equitable development program. Next, please. In 2017, South Core kicked off the Graham Street Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Program that I mentioned earlier to create a neighborhood vision that centered community development and the future of the light rail station that is coming. On your left side, I think you can see the community-driven neighborhood vision that the community produced. I'm going to post the link of the report here, so hopefully somebody can share with the rest of the team. South Korea has been playing an advisory role in Graham Street Community Action Team, the 6 organizations that are based in Graham Street, and their commitment to preserving the neighborhood, fighting displacement, and developing and releasing this report. Over 2,000 community members have participated and attended community listening sessions during the research of this report. Currently, there are 2 community action team partners who have projects that will help root community in place. Those are the Filipino Village and the Cham Refugees Community Center. The other 4 organizations are the Kolam Pagoda, which is a Vietnamese Buddhist temple, Al-Noor Islamic Center, which is East African Somali Islamic Center, St. Michael's Orthodox Church, which is Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Somali Community Services. So this is a collection of both community-based organizations and faith-based organizations, but they are the community anchors. These are community spaces that have provided home to these communities over the last 30, 40 years. These are the centers of these communities. And they are the ones who are addressing the displacement that's happening in the neighborhood. They are the ones who are organizing their communities and coming up with the solutions and the future of this neighborhood. How do I go next?
All right. So hello, everyone. Now that I'm not necessarily presenting, I thought I would show my face. So next, we're going to be getting updates from 2021 from each of our partners, kind of like you just heard about from 2019 to 2020. And so we'll go back in, and I believe OBO is our first partner. So Susan, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you again, Hargu. So here we have the Onboard Othello 2021 update. Beatbox is offering free outdoor classes and resources in Othello and Rainier Beach neighborhood. I'll tell you more about that. And Hosted is working to recruit BIPOC neighbors to the home zone community leadership team, and that's working with the city on that project. And then Homesite is currently going through the process of underwriting for financing construction expected to begin in 2022. So a little more detail on each of those. With Hosted, they, as we're still, continuing with COVID safety protocols, they've been meeting on Zoom with the youth engagement workers. They've been identifying projects that the youth want to work on, and that's what they're working on in January and February. So they identified a few areas, biking, and then also outreach, talking with the neighbors about other projects they could work on. Those are the things that the youth have identified, and we don't want it to be only just work. We want it to be fun and relationship building. So Cinda has done a great job, and Philippia and others with virtual events that include delivered food to the youth. They do art projects, they do meditation. They also do Zoom games and entertainment, and even in the last few months have been watching some movies together. And along with the fun, they've also are looking at, okay, what are we going to be working on with the community, and starting that planning that they hope to be launching in April. And also the virtual community leadership meetings that happen from January through March. They've been distributing those notes and project status updates on their email list and on their Facebook pages. So getting that information out about what they're planning to do. So they're going to have the April movie party. They are looking at summer gatherings where hopefully they can engage the community beyond the leadership team to include other people in the Othello area. There's 5 New Holly youth that are working with Hosted to determine which crosswalk design is going to be implemented at Inflorescence Plaza. Sorry, that's where that beautiful mural is I've mentioned at Othello and 39th. Also, Hosted is working on environmental design projects. We've already mentioned the home zone project that they're working with SDOT on, and they are preparing a kickoff with the community steering committee to learn how this project can improve safety in the neighborhood, on the neighborhood streets in April. So we're also working on recruiting BIPOC neighbors to this home zone community leadership team, and gardeners, because there's different gardening projects and also planters where we need to keep watching the plants. So we're looking at local community organizations, neighbors who have interest in either the leadership team or the gardening stewardship projects. We have one neighbor who's a very talented gardener from Cambodia, and she is our lead gardener both in the Unity Trail and the Inflorescence Plaza. If that's not enough, there's a little bit more that they're doing. They're engaging City Light and the Seattle Neighborhood Greenways about supporting improvements under the power lines in that along Chief South Trail, and to connect with community resources along the way. There's 4 paths that they're looking at that are connector paths on the Chief South Trail between South Myrtle and Holly Park Drive South. So those are new projects that are coming up. And that's the work that Hosted is doing. Our next project is Beatbox. And as I mentioned before, it's gardening lessons and food security through gardening. And they do wonderful videos, especially in this time. It's great to watch and say, I could do that. I know how to do that. So they're also offering these classes that are free. They offer them the same class twice a month. And just to give you a little taste of what they're doing, March was simple seed starting. April is gardening, planning, and planting. May is all about soil. June is pests and diseases. July is how to compost. August is harvesting and seed saving. And September is year-round gardening. So all along the way, there's hand-holding about how to do this for greater success. They do have volunteers that come in to do the gardening on the first Wednesday of every month. And they alternate that between New Holly Garden and Rainier Beach Learning Garden. And just looking at all kind of tasks around the gardening, weeding, planting, harvesting, organizing tools, and general site cleanup. Of course, all COVID safety protocols, that people have to wear masks if they come, and work in small groups. So that's the work of Beatbox for this year. There's also, as I mentioned before, community and business support group that is still doing outreach, but again, with safe events. So a lot of things had to be canceled, but they're still trying to support our local small businesses. We are working on a retreat for Onboard Othello for this year, looking at the next phase, what the organization, this group of coalition groups are going to be working on, where we are now, what's in the Othello neighborhood, and moving to the next step. So that's one of our big projects for this year with the community and business support group. We've also started this group called Othello Talks, which is video conversations, sort of a South End version of TED Talks. The tagline is learning, engaging, and doing. And it's talks by and for residents, specifically for Southeast Seattle audiences. And the final project I want to talk about is the Othello Square. There is going to be a limited equity housing cooperative on the site. That's going to include 68 units of home ownership project. It's for first-time low-income households at or below 80% of area median income. The total project cost is $32 million, and they're receiving funding from the city, the county, and the state to maintain the affordability to subsequent buyers over the next 50 years. It's part of the city's HOLA program, as well as the multifamily property tax exemption program. The units include 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom, but most of the units are 2 bedrooms. And the cost for these units are between $275,000 to $650,000, but the subsidy covers almost half of that price. So in a co-op, the member owns a proprietary lease for their unit through their shared ownership of the building, an individualized equity share that they can sell. And typically the equity share is about 20% of the price of the unit. The project's going through underwriting for financing, as we said on the slide, and is expected to start construction in early 2022. And that's my report. Gregory?
Thanks, Susan. Again, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, Gregory Davis here. And one of the things that we decided to do was be strategic in shifting the communities of opportunities, investments away from community safety and more towards economic development, particularly implementation of our next phase of the Food Innovation Center. We want this work to support farmers of color. We want to provide access to fresh, healthy, affordable, and culturally relevant produce in the Rainier Beach area. And we also want to create leadership and employment opportunities for people in the community. You know, for specifically, we're going to implement outreach strategies for the Food Innovation Center in light of the recent property acquisition in the Rainier Beach area. We were able to receive support to purchase 24,000 square feet parcel that's west of the Rainier Beach Light Rail Station. And that is the location that we are looking to have our Food Innovation Center built on. Specifically, what we're going to do is, at this phase, is really develop the community's participation in realizing the vision for the Food Innovation Center. We know very well that unless we have neighborhood and community support that and their vision in it, that the likelihood for success is going to be limited. We want to increase the sense of ownership of the new neighborhood anchor space by hiring staff with specific skill sets and conducting culturally relevant and equitable outreach activities. The particular positions that we have hired are a public relations staff person, also a youth advocate, and a project manager for the overall process. We want to be able to do some outreach events over the course of the year, collect surveys, and then create a report that provides an analysis and a set of recommendations for the Food Innovation Center and its relationship to the Rainier Beach community. One of the other things that RBAC made a decision to do was to step in and support the overall Rainier Valley partnership. So we are serving as fiscal agent to support the work that it continues to align with equity policies laid out in our partnership. So that includes the supporting the work of Haragu and eventual consultants to support our fundraising work. So we're excited about what 2021 holds, and look forward to interacting with y'all more on it. So I'm going to now pass it to Shiku.
Thanks, Gregory. Once again, Shiko, she, her pronouns with MCC. So while working to secure our place at the Opportunity Center last year, COVID led us to quickly endeavor upon disaster gentrification policy and system work, as I said earlier, in partnership with RBAC and Puget Sound Sage. MCC was particularly troubled by the early data that showed that the pandemic was resulting in 50% of Black businesses having to prematurely close down. When we learned, we then learned in early June that the old DMV building located in Hillman City was up for sale. So this location currently houses 8 East African small businesses, some of which have been operating since 2005. When we learned that these businesses to be displaced because of the potential buyers who are looking to either completely redevelop the place, either put up housing or supermarkets, we decided to move quickly and take the property off the market. And we're currently on track of closing on this property by May of 2021. And we're hoping to move our co-working space as well as our CIC to this location, as well as anchoring these businesses there. We're hoping in this work to launch a capital campaign for this property, and including the small business buyers, and working with communities to figure out what is the best ways to integrate MCC's vision as well as the community vision in which we have been working towards for the past 10 years to see through. In 2020 and beyond, our goal is to continue to become self-sufficient, a self-sufficient organization that is supported by the equity that we build in the projects that we are advancing. Our goal of stability, sustainability, and self-sufficiency, with the goal of stability, self-sufficiency, and sustainability, we have advanced our anti-displacement strategy for organizations and businesses that we seek to enter. We will create long-lasting economic opportunities for our communities. We will grow to leverage our shared programming efforts to foster new partnerships that we reach as we reach our increasing expansion. We will also continue to focus and center ourselves in the community connectedness work that takes place through our cultural programming, gathering, performances, and creative economy, arts in our Cultural Innovation Center. And we're striving to steward the reflection and representation of numerous refugee, immigrant, and communities of color that tie back to the Rainier Valley. Notably, we expect to advance and make a great headway in our advocacy work that continue to focus on anti-displacement, economic opportunity, and racial and social justice and education for marginalized communities of color. We are hoping just to increase organizational capacities by hiring new staff members, such as a capacity building coordinator. We're also hoping to even get somebody to help manage the properties in the Hillman City property. We'll continue to further stabilize and build the capacity of our partner organizations and the works that they have been doing, and eventually moving them to get permanent housing in the Hillman City, in which they will no longer be facing displacement that they currently face at their current locations. And then we continue to endeavor in our work for disaster gentrification and system policies, as well as furthering our shared programming with youth programming, senior meals, and senior programming, as well as overall helping to support our community members that have greatly been affected by COVID-19 and other things that they have faced through disaster gentrification. With that being said, I'll pass it on to Abdi.
Thank you, Shiko. Again, this is Abdi Yusuf, coalition organizer for South Core and Graham Street Community Action Team. Since the kickoff of the Graham Street community equitable development initiative, the community action team partners have been coming together, learning together, collaborating to become long-term stewards of the neighborhood vision, the vision that I shared with you all earlier. Some of the milestones for the CAT include participating Bushson Sage's COO-funded community real estate stewardship program. This is an amazing program that teaches community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and any organization that's interested to learn what it takes to do a real estate stewardship, real estate development, community-led development. Excuse me, I'm fasting and I'm having like a dry throat. So the community action team have pursued over the last few years a collective approach of addressing the issues that they're facing. This year, the community action team pursued and applied resource for their stewardship work, and they got awarded capacity building funding from Seattle's Equitable Development Initiative. This is going to allow them to hire a consultancy so they can continue their work, they can expand their advocacy, and they can get to their goals earlier. The community action team partners have been supporting each other during this difficult time. Their communities, they have been supporting each other on the best way that they could. They have been coordinating resources, for example, food banks and senior and family meals. They have been sharing protective gear. Earlier, when the pandemic started last year, it was difficult to get a hold of masks and hand sanitizers. They were able to share those kind of stuff. Right now, over the last few months, they have been hosting vaccination pop-ups, inviting each other. You could see, for example, Uncle Hugh is a Filipino leader who oversees the temple, going and contacting with other communities, the Somalis, the Ethiopians, and the Cham, inviting them to take advantage of the vaccination pop-up at the temple. The same thing, the Somali Health Board and a member of the CAT inviting the community members, the CAT community members, and going to their centers and cultural anchors to provide those shots. So they built a solidarity and a connection over the last few years. They're working together hard, and they're trying to address issues that they're facing and trying to make sure that the community vision comes through. What's next is South Core is going to continue the advisory role for the community action team. Right now, it's in the process of developing the long-term implementation plan for that community vision. They are working on the implementation on the plan that maps out how to make the neighborhood vision real. These are the solutions from the community. More than 2,000 community members have participated. The small businesses have participated. So they are mapping out how to make it sure, it comes through. Yeah, thank you. Hargo.
Thank you, Abdi. That's probably the third time I said it. Thank you to everyone who's presented today. My camera's a little off, so let me look directly at you. Thank you to all the presenters, Gregory, Abdi, Shiko, Susan. Thank you guys, that was great. We did want to present our Rainier Valley video today, but in the interest of time, we'll just post it onto the WOVA link and all of you can view it after our session. We did want to open up some time for questions, so I just want to introduce one more thing before we get to that. So before we continue, all of our information can be found at the Communities of Opportunity Rainier Valley site, which is coorv.org. We are still transitioning materials over, but that is our new home. So if you ever want to find out more about us, please visit coorv.org. And now we are open for questions. I don't think we got very much on the chat. Information, I'll put my email in the chat for now. And if anyone wants to talk about what the Rainier Valley is doing, Rainier Valley COO that is, please shoot me an email and I will direct you to the right partner, or we can talk further about engagement. So thank you for everyone who's attended, and yeah, we'll open it up for questions. Okay, I'm sorry I have my head turned here, but this is the way it's gonna have to be. Okay, so Whitney or Ken, did we have any other questions come in?
There was a desire to connect with the Youth Council in Maple Valley about proper gardening and healthy eating habits. So that might have been an OBO or the Beatbox request to connect. Sounds like they can connect to you, and you can connect them to the right partner, Haragu.
Sure.
And I think just overall, yeah, a desire to connect with presenters. So if any of the presenters would like to drop their info in the chat as well, or folks can just connect with Haragu.
All right. Well, no, we might have some more things coming in. Oh, no, just our email. So yeah, we'll drop our emails for now and just keep waiting for questions. All right, and this will be the question. Our question section will be the last portion of our agenda today. So if there are no questions, and if folks are hopping off, that's also fine. So thank you guys for attending, and just here waiting on questions.
There was a section where was talked about the owning a property based on income.
Mm-hmm.
I think I missed some part of it. Is there, where
Sure.
is that located, and can somebody elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, Susan, I believe that's what you were talking about with Building D.
Yeah, so there's,
you go?
it's on where Othello Square is at Othello and MLK. So it's a they call it limited equity housing cooperative. So it's a co-op model where there is home ownership. It's run by HomeSite, and they do a lot to support first-time home owners. And they say first-time low-income households, which is 80% or below of the area median income. And like I said, there's going to be, what did I say? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom units. There was a real push when this whole concept started that there has to be some family housing. But I don't have the number of how many 3 bedrooms they're going to have. It sounds like most of them are 2 bedrooms. But it is a home site project. So if you go to their website, HOMESIGHT is how they spell it. You could probably find some information in there. Groundbreaking is happening in 2022.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for asking a question, Saba. It was great. If we could get like one more. Let's see.
I think there was a clarifying question here to me from Mary. Is this the new building going up across from Safeway?
Yes, it's one of the new buildings. Well, actually, no, it's not, because it has not begun construction, but it will be with those buildings.
I'll just add to that. The building right across from Safeway is Odessa Brown Clinic and Tiny Tots. And then there's going to be housing above that, SHA housing. And then behind that is a charter school, elementary school, charter school. Those are the 2 you're seeing that are being constructed right now.
Good questions. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a lot of good information to know about the community that we live in.
Oh, thank you. We're happy to do it and happy to be doing the work. Happy to be here. We still have 40 people online. So, go ahead.
There's a question about where to view the video.
Sorry?
Where to view the video?
So we just have like 6 minutes left because it'll kick us out at about 5:30.
No,
but I will send, I will send the video out. It'll be available on the COORV site, and I'll also send it out via WOVA. So you'll all get, everyone who's attended this session will get a notification through them that they've gotten the video. Thank you, Shiko. All right, hanging out at about 38. Anyone else have any burning questions or non-burning questions? Thank you, Blishta. We're glad you made it. Looking forward to talking to you soon. Thank you, Lucille. Yeah, good to have had you all here. It's wonderful creating a new community virtually, having people take interest in your work and in the work. Yeah. All right. It looks like folks are kind of just saying goodbye on the chat. So I think we should just end off right here. Thank you guys all for your time today. We were very appreciative to have had over 60 people come and check out what we're doing and who we are, and maybe you'd like to see me. So thank you all for showing up and for hearing about our projects and for asking questions. All of our emails are in the chat like you had saw. Should have provided a slide with our contact information, so I'm sorry about that. But I definitely look forward to touching base with folks in general. And once again, thank you for coming to our presentation. Turn my head. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Hargu.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Hargo.
Thank you, Hargu.
Thank you all. Okay, what am I doing?